It was incredibly traumatic. Every single day, I'm subjected to going into an environment, into a situation where I felt I didn't fit. Extremely traumatic.
Enter the world of magic mushrooms with Microdose U.
So mushrooms really help me do the work. I've talked about this for so long. You can't just eat magic mushrooms and go about your day, go about your life and just hope for the best. They teach you, they get you to dig really deep. And what I want to share with you today is something that has been brought to my attention, brought to the surface from the mushrooms, no doubt. So right now, as we speak, I'm down in southern Utah. I took my little camper van down into the desert here for just a little kind of, I just wanted to get away from the city, from Salt Lake, and just kind of reflect and think deeply and just come up with some things that I think that have occurred in my life that have gotten me to where I am now, both good and bad. And once I come up with them, then I figure out what to do about them. And I'm going to share something with you right now that I've honestly never shared before. And this stuff just keeps coming to the surface. And you know, one of the last episodes I shared with you was it's come to my attention that I definitely have issues with OCD on some spectrum level, ADHD, and possibly, I'm not sure, and some of you have written in and confirmed that, yeah, you think it's true, possibly some type of autism on the spectrum. It's possible. A lot of things bother me a lot, like noises. I talked to you about that last episode, so I won't go back into that. However, I did come up with something now that I think has really affected my life, and probably it could be one of the biggest things ever that got me to where I am and got me into a lot of craziness in my life, and I will share that. And it's a little bit difficult to share, actually, so bear with me. This goes back to when I was 5 years old. And I know my parents were trying to do the right thing for me. They were trying to do me a favor and trying to make my life as good as it possibly could be. However, for some reason, my mom felt it would be really good for Dave to start first grade early. In other words, we're going to put him in this private school. He's going to start at age 5 instead of age 6. So he'll be ahead of everybody in some way. I don't know. I don't know what the thinking was really exactly, but I started first grade at 5 years old. And when you're 5 years old, you don't know any difference. You blend in with and the kids in my class were the same age. But then after 2 years, I think we had enough of this private school. So I went back to public, and I was thrown into this situation where I am now a year younger than everybody in my class. 1 year younger. And when you're 7, 8 years old, it doesn't really make that big of a deal. It's not that big of a deal. 7, 8, 9, 10, it's not that big of a deal. But as you start getting a little bit older, and as you start maturing, and everybody's going through puberty, and you're not only a year behind them, but you also turn out to be like a late bloomer, that is where a lot of trouble can begin. And so I remember distinctly, probably around 7th grade, when everybody around me, all the kids in my class, everybody around me was starting to mature and turn into men and young women. Dave here, being a year younger, and also, as it turned out, being a very late bloomer, because my body was not ready, anywhere near ready to become a man. And here I was thrown into a situation where this person who looks like a little baby almost is now thrown into a class with kids that are starting to have facial hair, develop, features that look like they're young adults. And that in itself was extremely traumatic for years. I felt alone. I felt isolated. I felt like I had a few close friends, but past that, I was definitely not one of the cool kids in the class at all. I was not even, I just felt like I wasn't even a part of the class. I was like this, almost like this outsider this little kid who's thrown into this class where everybody else is growing up, and he wasn't growing up. It was a really, really, really difficult situation. And I had to adopt or adapt, whatever I can always get those words confused, adopt or adapt, personality traits that would somehow help me fit in as best as possible in a situation where I felt I didn't fit at all. So I can't even explain, but I probably became someone who I really wasn't, but was pretending to be, because here I was thrust all of a sudden almost into this situation where I'm a little kid amongst adults, or people that were becoming adults. And talk about dating, talk about going to parties, talking about being into athletics with the same people. It wasn't working. These people were in a different league. And somebody actually from my last video, or my last episode, whether video or audio, it doesn't matter, but somebody asked me if I've had PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. Now, I've never been in the military. However, PTSD is only not for people that were in the military or some type of, law enforcement or firefighters, or any people that are dealing with trauma and dealing with things like that. No, PTSD is real, and you can have post-traumatic stress disorder from a multitude of things. And I will say that that person that wrote into me is truly right, truly correct. I have some form of PTSD, and it was incredibly traumatic. Every single day, I'm subjected to going into an environment, into a situation where I felt I didn't fit. Extremely traumatic. I didn't know what to do. I didn't even know how to articulate it. My parents had no idea. They had no clue. I had to make the best of my life in a way that a 13 or 14 or 15-year-old kid can figure out to do. In those days, it was uncommon for parents to figure out that their kids are depressed or have anxiety or some type of trauma and send them to therapy. That was uncommon back in, it just didn't happen. And there was a really negative stigma attached to that. Back in my day, back in those days, anybody that was receiving like therapy was like, there was something wrong with them. It was perceived that way, that they're going to a therapy. Something's wrong with them. They're mentally ill. Something's wrong with them. So it just, stuff like that wasn't really talked about. At least as far as I knew, it wasn't talked about. So this was really difficult. And by the time I got to college on my own, I felt there was so much of this pent up traumatic energy. I did some things that were so stupid and so bad that I won't even talk about. I won't even talk about right here, because I was just somehow getting rid of this energy that had been accumulating for years, and it was not good. It was not good at all. So I'm not angry at anybody. My mom is still alive. My dad passed away several years ago. I've never been angry at all. I think they were trying to do the best that they could do for what they believed at the time was right. I have no anger. I've got a great relationship with my mom. I love her. I think were they naive? Yes, very naive. And not only naive in starting me a year earlier in school, but not being able to pick up on the signs of depression and not fitting in, and spending a lot of time at home, on my bed, listening to music and not being, I mean, again, I had friends. I don't want to make it sound like I was a loner and was this recluse who never came out of the house. That's not the case. But there were many times I spent alone in my bed, studying album covers, listening to music very deeply because I felt like I didn't have anything else that I could do. I think I came out of it okay. I mean, again, I don't want to say that my life has been horrible. My life's not been horrible. And right now I want to say my life is really, really good. However, I do recognize that a lot of the things I'm going through now, a lot of the issues that I have were based and stemmed from things that happened in childhood. Sorry, I'm in a campsite here with my van, and people are behind me. I don't know what they're doing. They're probably raking leaves, or I'm not sure what's going on, but ignore them. See, this is an example. I lock into that sound in back of me. Somebody's like raking leaves or something like that, and they're talking, and I lock into that, and I can't escape from it. I was almost ready to turn the recording off and say, I can't do this. This is weird. That most people would never even think about that. But I was literally almost ready to turn this off and say, I can't record this today. There's something going on back there. And so this is an example of what I'm struggling with. Yes, I did a very nice dose of mushrooms a little while ago. I feel like they've brought a lot of this to the surface more, and I'm able to talk about it. That's one of the reasons I came down here to the desert. I should have gone to a more isolated area where there's nobody else around, but I didn't do that. I came to a little campground, which is fine, which is totally fine. But then I deal with conversations and people raking leaves that is distracting to me, and I can't continue with what I'm doing. I'm not complaining about my life. Again, I love my life, and I love helping other people, and I've been very successful helping other people for a long time. But it's finally time to admit that I'm not only the teacher, but I need to be the student and the patient as well. It's finally time to admit that. I've lived on the stage for so long, even in dentistry, and I'm going to talk about that maybe in a future episode. It's a real issue and struggle and problem with me as well. But I'm not going to talk about that in this episode. But the fact that how many people are able to sit in front of a camera and reveal serious struggles in their lives? I think the mushrooms have really helped me do this. It's too many people sit in front of a camera on some level, and here I am, look at my great life, look how beautiful I am, look at my possessions, look at this, look at my beautiful spouse, look at my beautiful partner, everything in my life is perfect. Well, guess what? Those people on social media, 95% of them, no, things are not so perfect. They like to show it for some reason because they've got other things in their lives. I'm here now, I've realized I need to expose some of the real issues that have been going on in my life, and not only over the past year or two, but over the past 6 decades. I'm ready to face them and talk about them, share them, because it's really interesting. Last time I did the video, so many of you, and a lot of the engagement is on the YouTube channel. So many of you. Because on Apple Apple Podcasts and Spotify, you can't really comment. You can't on Spotify, you can, but it's not easy, and nobody sees it. But on YouTube, so many people commented, Dr. Dave, thank you for sharing I've got the exact same thing going on. So I'm so glad that you're talking about this, because I've been experiencing the exact same thing. So it gives me more motivation to not only share my serious struggles, but knowing that when I do, there's probably at least one other person out there that's saying, I've got the exact same thing going on in my life, and I'm going to watch you, because if you're figuring it out, I'm going to figure it out as well. So I'm getting there. I'm really happy with progress. Again, the mushrooms are an incredible tool for me. I so believe in them, because like I said, the first year, anxiety and depression gone. Second year, figuring out more spirituality and universal stuff. Third year, physical health, seriously improving. And now this fourth year, I'm going like deeper than ever. So I'm very happy with this. And along the way, yeah, I'm going to expose and share some really serious things that come to my mind that have happened in my life, and why they've happened, how they've happened, and what they've caused in my life. So I hope on some level this helps somebody. I really hope. And it's not easy to talk about this stuff, because again, for many years, I had to like fake that everything is great. Oh, my life is just fantastic. Oh, everything's beautiful. Everything's great. But was it really? Okay, I'll leave you with that. If this content resonates, and if you haven't done so yet, I ask that you subscribe. Make sure you check make sure you get notifications enabled so you don't miss any episodes. I do 2 episodes a week, Wednesday and Fridays. I've got a website, microdoseu.com. It's exactly the way it sounds, microdose with the letter U.com. And also show notes here. Every episode I've got show notes which give you some really pretty cool links to take this further. Hope this helps, as I say at the end of every episode, which I truly mean from my heart. Love you, and thanks for being with me, and I'll see you on the next episode for sure.